Well, every time I do these, I'm just so emotional. I just can't believe, I share this for the ones who have been to one of my book events. Ever since I was a little girl, I'd had a vision of being a writer, and I didn't like a lot of the adults in my life. They were just tripping. But my grandmother, she would pick me up and take me to the grocery store, and I'd pick up a book and read the book the whole time. And so then she'd tell my whole family, she's like, she's old. I'm like 2 years old, read these books. And she's like, she read the whole book just while we were in the grocery store. And so she was just my biggest fan, I tell you, my grandmother. So in the fourth grade, I was given a project to write a book, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'm in the fourth grade. I write this book about Marian Anderson, and the teacher was one of the good teachers. She did like a little cover and made a hardcover and made it into a real book. And so then when I went to show my grandmother, she was like, oh my goodness, because I grew up in the Baptist church, so everything you did, you had to go up front. And it was like, Eric, get up front and show them your book. Every week. That book was the highlight of the service. My granddaughter coming up here with her book. My granddaughter, come up here with your book. Show me your book. And I share that because that's what we are planning into our children. And I think when I think about, why the heck do I want to write books? I love writing. I think it was my grandmother planted that seed, just that praise and that celebration, and just that, it's just, yes, exposure. And so that's where it started. And so after getting married, having children, I couldn't afford just to sit around and write books, okay? I had to become an HR person, and so I'm a human resources person by trade. And all the time growing up in the inner city of East Orange, New Jersey, I've seen a lot of things, been a victim, unfortunately, of a lot of violence and just inequities, seeing the inequities in the world, and working in the workplace, seeing the inequities of people who deserve promotion, who didn't receive it. And I'd be on the side of, as an HR person, I'm the person telling them they didn't get the job, but I really don't have a good reason why. I'm just a messenger. And so just years and years of that, I created like this alter ego called Mrs. HR. So she's the one who can tell you the truth, but then Thelá had to make up stories about stuff. Well, I didn't lie, but I didn't tell the whole truth at work, because I couldn't tell them. I couldn't tell them you didn't get the job because they wanted, a white man, or they wanted to hire your cousin, or they don't like the way you talk because you're a little ghetto. They would say those type of things to me, though. They tell me that, and it'd be so disturbing. Hello, welcome. So that's what started this journey. So enough about that. I'm going to read from this book, and I'm going to read a few things, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions. And I always start so many places, but I like to start at the beginning, at part 1. Because when I was working with my editors, they kept asking me, do I want to keep this in the book? I said, well, that's why I wrote it in there, because that's why I want it in the book. So anyhow, it's called Part 1, Defining. So I just wanted to start off by defining what this was about. So one of my favorite or most impactful quotes is from James Baldwin. If you haven't really read James Baldwin, it's page number 1. Page 1, but it doesn't have a number. So if you turn, there'll be 2 on the next page. So, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. James Baldwin. And that just always stuck with me. I mean, it's the reality. And I think, one of the things, my son called me the other day. He said, what's that thing we do? I could not figure out what he was talking about. He said, what's that thing we do at work when we can't really be ourselves, and we just code switching, covering. And we do that all the time, as people of color, not, just people, but mainly people of color, you come to work and you're angry, but you can't be angry. So in the book I write, I am writing this book as a black woman who is entirely and infinitely angry. I repeat, I am timelessly mad. I often say I'm not the stereotypical angry black woman. I am just angry. There is a difference. Maybe it would help to compare my anger to that of a white woman who is angry about the injustice in the world and how there is war in Ukraine and all over the world at any given time, or how she sometimes feels that she and her children are perpetually unsafe. This white woman is sad and angry when she thinks about these injustices. This is the same anger I feel, but it lives in black skin. My black anger seems to frighten people. So I like to create these spaces just because guess what? We don't stop and think. If you stopped and thought about this all day, would you get anything done? Would you want to talk to people? Would you want to go to work? It's a lot when you unpack all of this. And so this book is, I called it A Survival Guide for Diversity and Inclusion Good Doers, because I worked at an organization, and it doesn't take much to go look on my LinkedIn and guess which one it was. And I was promoted to the top of the ranks. I was sitting at the very top of the high tower I became the Chief Diversity Officer. But I was told that that wasn't a real job anyway. It was just a name. It was just a title that I would have never gotten to that place on my own. I mean, they said all types of stuff to me to my face. They said to my face all the time. I said, well, shouldn't I get more money? Because my counterparts are making like, $400,000 a year, $500,000. No, because you would have never got this job anyway, so we're just going to give you 3% increase, a 3% increase. But I honestly took the job because I knew that I would help people in the role. But I didn't really help because I wasn't at a place where I could help people because I couldn't help myself. But we fall into that. So this book was kind of my healing from that type of environment. And every day, I promise you, I have women, mostly black women, who come to me and say, I'm laughing because I can hear my husband over here trying to recruit people into the room. God bless him. Okay, he is, but he don't have to do that. I'm going to read a part, if I can find it in the book, about a dream that I had. But in the meantime, just hold that thought. I'm going to try to, oh yeah, ooh. Yeah, it popped right to the page. That's the spirit right there. Okay, so I'm going to read this and then we're going to talk, because this was deep. This happened while I was writing this book. So this is on page 70. And I start by saying, excuse me, let me share how my traumatic stress shows up. While writing this book, I had a horrible dream in which I took a wrong turn and walked through an active construction site. One of the construction workers saw me and immediately reached for a weapon. He picked up a bat, then a crowbar, and then eventually a nail gun and had it pointed at my head in fear. He did not understand English. I was trying to communicate with him and tell him that I was looking for the exit out of the construction site. I yelled, "I'm not a crack patient." There were children outside the door as he backed out slowly toward the door he was leading me to. I tried to motion with my eyes and body that he should lower the nail gun, afraid that it would go off. But he did not want to drop it until he saw the look of fear in the children's eyes. He was absolutely terrified of me. These are the night terrors that I have. I only speak for myself. I can't even imagine, the dreams and nightmares, as people that we have. It's hard to sleep at night. But we get up, we look good, we get dressed. And I did the podcast with Octavia, shout out, and we were talking about mental wellness and just how as people, especially black women, how we look good, okay? We be coming looking good. Our hair looks good. We have our clothes, nails. But what's going on the inside every day when we're dealing with all of these different attacks? And microaggressions, aggressions, macroaggressions, all types of fears. You know, when we saw George Floyd, it wasn't, I mean, that wasn't the first time we saw a black man beaten to death or killed by police officers. And I was living in my neighborhood in the Valley, and any of you look at next door? Oh, so don't look at next door. Don't look at next door. But they had this picture circulating around. Watch out for this guy. Watch out for this guy. It was a young teenage black male who looked like my son with a hoodie. And I never respond to next door, but I responded that time. I said, you need to take that down. Because that looks like, it was like a blurred picture. You couldn't tell. It just was a young black boy with a hoodie. And they were saying, watch out for this guy. Well, that guy could have been my guy. Right. And that just disturbed me so much. I said, you will take this down off next door. I said, you're just promoting fear. And that looks like my son, and that's not my son. And so she took it down. So why do I share this story? Because this is the unfortunate, the heightened sense that we're in every day. Like, thinking about the recent elections. People don't want to talk about that, but we have to talk about it. We have to talk about a black woman just ran for the highest office in the country, and she looks like us. I would like to think she looked like me. Sometimes I see people looking at me thinking, is that Kamala? I be like, no, I'm not Kamala. But I feel them looking at me sideways sometimes. Like, I remember when this week I just was praying through, feeling like people were looking at me like I was her and I lost, right? Because I am her, and it did feel like I lost. But how do you unpack all of that? And so these things are happening all the time, every day. And I just wanted to write this book to give it a voice, to say, you're not imagining things. Yes, people are looking at you sideways sometimes. Yes, sometimes you didn't get the job because you're a woman. Sometimes you didn't get the job because you're a black man. Sometimes you did get the job because you're a black man, right? All of these things are happening at the same time. So I want to say thank you so much for sharing this moment. Shout out to Malik Books. This is where I did my first. This is where I did my first book signing, and it won't be the last. And I want to open it up for some discussion, and don't feel like you have to say anything. Oh, this mic is, I like it. Oh, another mic for them. Oh, I thought you were saying the mic was bad. So I just want y'all to take a minute to breathe. Okay. Hold it in, hold it in. And breathe it out.